Seems like the metaphorical training wheels are finally coming off in Don Mancini's Chucky Season 3. With the second part of the season finally gracing our screens after a long wait, it looks like Chucky's not going to be here for a very long time. In the first half, we saw that the Charles Lee Ray-possessed killer good guy doll stunned by a shocking discovery that his plastic body is rapidly aging. You'd think nothing vexes a psycho serial killer doll who's come back from the dead more than once, but in reality, Chucky's pretty much shitting himself every time he notices the crow's feet, the falling hair, or the wrinkles on his face. To fix him, Caroline, Lexi's sister and Chucky's partner in crime, takes him down to Dr. Rosen, who apparently specializes in tackling curses. To Chucky's horror, he is dying, and for good this time. Dr. Rosen figures out that Chucky has been forsaken by his dark protector Damballa after he got infected by Christianity during a failed exorcism in Season 2. Apparently, the voodoo deity is upset at Chucky's lack of faith, which means the killer doll is finally beginning to lose his powers after a 40-year killing spree. But there is a flicker of light at the end of the tunnel, even for a dying plastic doll. With a penchant for bloodlust, after Dr. Rosen does his research, he informs Chucky that he might win back Damballa's favor by committing 6 sacrificial murders in really evil spots. After the Amityville horror house does not work in his favor, Chucky decides to sneak into the White House by tricking the youngest son of U.S. President James Collins. Henry is an impressionable young boy and believes that Chucky holds the spirit of his dead little brother Joseph. Now, while Chucky was getting his sacrifices in order inside the White House, his 3 teen enemies, Jake, Devin, and Lexi, find out his location. Lexi has been looking for Caroline all this while, and her only hope to reach her sister is through Chucky. So she charms the president's eldest son, Grant, to get themselves invited to the White House's Halloween gala. And let's not forget about Tiffany Valentine, Chucky's lover-cum-enemy who first lived in a Belle doll that took over actress Jennifer Tilly's body. Even though Tiffany's currently on death row in Texas, she's using voodoo to control her main guard and plot her escape. Meanwhile, the psychotic murders happening in the White House were being pinned on a human assassin. The First Lady Charlotte Collins, along with CIA agent Warren Price, are covering up the murders, keeping it a secret not just for the public but also from President Collins. But things get worse during the Halloween gala when the president sees the ghost of his dead son, and the party ends with Chucky screwing a chandelier loose on the guests, killing them. You'd think Damballa would finally help Chucky out, but unfortunately he's not looking too hot due to his rapid aging. So, without wasting another moment, let's find out what happens in Episode 5. Before we go into explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin.
Public service.
President Collins is not doing too well. Well, the Halloween bloodbath is weighing pretty heavy on President James Collins since the party has been hearing and seeing his dead son, that too in his Halloween costume with a mask on. Even while addressing the press, he finds Joseph's ghost staring back at him through the crowd of journalists, and naturally Collins starts panicking, causing him to exit the conference before he could make a statement. His mental health is declining, and so is his reputation in front of the entire nation. So Collins comes home to see Henry, asking him about Joseph's ghost, not the good guy doll like Henry keeps mentioning, but the real one. However, his wife intervenes, thinking both her son and husband are losing their minds. When he tries to talk to Charlotte about how he believes Henry's telling the truth about seeing Joseph, Charlotte refuses to hear him out. She asks him to pull his shit together because she cannot be the only one holding their family together while everything else is falling apart. Ironically, later when she meets Price to discuss the Halloween bloodbath, the CIA agent shows her a CCTV footage of Joseph's ghost haunting the party, but Charlotte is still hell-bent on her stand and simply shunned Price when he implied of the killer being something supernatural. I really don't blame her. It's easier to believe that there's a killer lurking around in the White House, and that footage is probably the result of some disgusting prank.
What's the point? You ever feel like the thrill is gone.
Old man Chucky is not getting his usual kick from the murder and mayhem. So Grant is sulking given that in the last episode he broke up with Lexi after finding out she was using him as her ticket to get into the White House. Sadly, dude's a loner, and probably the only friend he has is his bodyguard. Meanwhile, Lexi is still clueless about the fact that her baby sister Caroline has become the killer doll's assistant and actually enjoys watching Chucky kill people in the goriest possible manner. Although she burnt the bridge with Grant, Lexi knows that she's hot enough to make him come crawling back to her. Devin, Jake, and Lexi have lost everything because of Chucky, so now Grant was their last hope to get their hold on the doll and track down Caroline. The scales have been tipped in their favor with Tiffany being locked up and Chucky rapidly aging, so they must end the doll before he can make any further damages. Meanwhile, in the White House, Chucky's going through a severe existential crisis. The killer doll now looks like a gazillion years old with almost no hair on his head, speaking in a husky, shivering voice and with aging cracks on his entire plastic face. While he was laying in a room, a cleaning lady comes in to clean Henry's room and notices the weird, frail-looking doll tucked in the kid's bed. Feeling deeply unsettled, she murmurs something about not getting paid enough for this bullshit and proceeds to drink alcohol from a bottle she snuck inside her cleaning tray. Now, of course, our man Chucky does not take insults too kindly, so when the woman turns to do her job, he swaps out her booze with some toxic cleaning bleach. I'm hoping you guys can assume what happened next. The woman turned to drink from the same bottle and found herself choking on her own blood and puking her guts out until she died. But poor Chucky, he is still sad. The serial killer in him simply does not feel the same kick he used to get before from seeing some blood spill. Hundreds of murders and debating so many deaths only to be taken down by old age? Chucky's nihilism has no bounds, even though he is mourning how empty he feels with the lack of the cheap thrill he would get by finding new ways to murder people. Chucky has no time to waste and cleans up the body before Henry can find out. Moments after Chucky is done, Henry comes back from school to find him weakly laying in bed. While he does try to make the doll feel better, Chucky keeps ranting about how meaningless life is and how nothing matters. Henry's a good kid. He tries to comfort Chucky by getting him a blanket to keep his plastic body warm, but something really weird happens. While grabbing the blanket, he feels blood dripping down the walls and looks up to see a bloody eye flickering on the wallpaper. As Henry screams in terror, he has a vision of Teddy's death. I hope you guys remember Teddy, the guy who looked like a knockoff of Jason Statham and was the first one to meet his brutal end at the hand of Chucky in the White House this season. Anyway, Chucky, being the narcissist he is, thinks Henry ran away after seeing his withered face, but actually Henry went up to his mom to explain how he thinks Teddy's ghost is actually trying to tell him something and insists Charlotte to check his room. When she goes into the room, she sees nothing on the walls, and although there is a body hidden inside a closet underneath all the clothes, Charlotte fails to notice it. Eerily enough, she also does not sense Chucky standing behind her with a knife. Luckily, the psycho doll isn't at his finest and hence is too tired to stab her before she leaves.
Right. Our job is the same either way. Save Caroline, kill Chucky.
The teens try to end Chucky with his own weapon. So as Lexi's trying to reach Grant, Devin, and Jake are trying to brainstorm how to kill Chucky once and for all. They soon come up with the idea of using the killer doll's own voodoo magic against him, and as they go knee-deep into research, they stumble upon Dr. Rosen's website, which apparently mentions Damballa. Leaving Lexi to take care of the Grant issued a couple plans on a road trip to Dr. Rosen's office. Meanwhile, Grant is super heartbroken, and he holed up in his room, simply staring at Lexi's texts instead of replying to them. Charlotte tries to comfort him and guides him on how he should not let anyone manipulate him or take him for granted. But you know how a teen brain works. Next morning when he sees Lexi waiting for him outside his school, Grant goes up to talk to her after a little pep talk from his bodyguard. When he observes how Lexi was sincere with her apology, Grant agrees to start over. Lexi takes this opportunity to warn him about Henry's bloodthirsty doll, but before she could go any further, Grant's bodyguard interrupts him by sending him in for school. On the other hand, Devin and Jake have reached Dr. Rosen's office. At first, the doctor refuses to give up any information regarding his eccentric patient, but after the boys earnestly request by putting up valid reasons to support their need to kill Chucky, the doctor finally spills the news about the doll's aging. But Devin and Jake aren't convinced, since the psychopath keeps popping up even after being killed multiple times in multiple ways. When they press Rosen to tell them the ultimate method to destroy Chucky's spirit for good, the Doctor suggests them to back off from this suicide mission, as the only way Chucky's spirit can be destroyed is through someone pursuing his soul to the spirit realm to end it. And of course, one can only venture into the spirit realm if they're dead. So it's most definitely Mission Impossible. Back at the White House, Chucky is barely clinging on as his mental health is in peanuts. To pass the time till death claims him, he flips through cable channels looking for something to watch, but nothing amuses him. Ironically, the channels mostly contain killer doll movies like Dead Silence and Megan. Chucky's mood further sours when he sees the news report about Jennifer Tilly or Tiffany being on death row. The scene then shifts to Devin and Jake as they are heading back to Washington. Devin is pretty upset about realizing how they might end up in serious trouble and lose everything they have yet again. Ever since Chucky has entered their lives, they have lost everyone they have ever loved, forcing them to live their lives in constant fear of being killed at any moment. So, Jake suggests they don't have to get back to DC until tomorrow morning, meaning they finally have the time and privacy to do what they have been trying to do in the past 4 episodes. So, to the beat of Frankie Goes to Hollywood's Relax, Devin and Jake check into a motel and have sex for the very first time. You know how teenage love is, disgustingly cute and equally cringe? Somehow both the boys relate themselves to be Ellie and Oliver from Luca Guadagnino's Call Me By Your Name, which is sweet, I guess, given they are teenagers after all. They both feel closer and in love after their night together, never wanting to leave the dusty motel room. Oh, to be in love for the very first time, am I right? The night is so great that the next morning, Devin wonders if they should just forget about fighting Chucky, but somehow Jake convinces him to stay strong and keep being the heroes they need to be. If not for themselves, at least for Lexi and Caroline.
You're still the brilliant psychopath I fell in love with.
Chucky gets the pep talk of the decade. At the White House, Charlotte confronts Price about his irresponsible approach towards the whole killer on loose situation. The CIA agent finally admits that he is starting to think there might be something supernatural going on, and man, has he got a point. Only something beyond human comprehension can manage to go completely invisible inside the world's most protected building and kill so many people. Of course, the First Lady is furious. She thinks Price is trying to pin his incapability on a dead boy by implying that it's her dead son's ghost that's haunting everyone in the building. As they argue, both Charlotte and Price are shocked when they see the American flag in the room twisting and turning, mimicking the death of how one of Chucky's victims was suffocated in the White House. I hope Charlotte has received the signs she needs to finally believe her husband and Price about the supernatural existence in her residence, instead of just cleaning up after Chucky's fanatics. Meanwhile, Tiffany, dressed up in a fur cape and a tiara, uses her voodoo skills to make her jailer dance at the tip of her fingers. This is when she receives a call from Chucky, who congratulates her after finding out that she has drawn up her game plan to evade her execution. He then proceeds to break the news of his impending death to Tiffany, who is shocked to hear Chucky speak like a pathetic loser. She simply won't believe that Chucky has decided to give up without even trying. She tries to cheer him up by saying that even though they have almost murdered each other many times, Chucky will always be the cunning psycho she fell for. Don't know if it's ironic or heartwarming, but Chucky responds with the same endearment and admits to love Tiffany just as much. Now, Tiffany's furious. She starts pepping Chucky up, asking the right questions. Doesn't he want to be remembered as the best serial killer ever? She advises him to go out in a blaze of glory and take down as many people as possible. Well, Chucky is seen to be very inspired by Tiffany's speech and agrees to go out only after leaving his mark on the world. In the next scene, we witness the president hear Joseph's voice coming from Joseph's old room, but after going in, he finds Henry's creepy doll on the bed. The room is barely lit, so you can imagine how perfect the entire horror setting is. While the president turns to notice his dead son's ghost, Chucky manages to smash a piggy bank over his head, knocking him down. In the campiest possible manner, Chucky then jumps on the president, biting off a piece of his cheek, tearing his face with his withered plastic hand, and gouging out his eyes. Finally, the episode ends after the killer doll reaches into the dead man's jacket pocket and takes out the card with a set of nuclear codes. Marvelous verdict. Who else saw this big twist coming when Chucky first headed to the White House? Well, if you ask me, the stakes couldn't get any higher. Sure, Death Becomes Her has a smaller body count compared to other Chucky episodes, but the president's death keeps the gore level pretty high. Although I am more intrigued by the White House ghosts and how they will fit into the upcoming events of the show. We all know that Don Mancini, the creator of the series, has a knack for taking his viewers on wild rides through mind-bendingly crazy situations, grisly kills, and unexpected story turns without missing a beat. He continues this trend here too, so the fast pace means we do not have to wait around for an explanation for Chucky's new situation, which is both funny and entertaining to watch. In Death Becomes Her, Chucky doesn't hold back on the witty remarks, plus Brad Dourif's delivery of lines has a 100% surety to make you laugh mindlessly. I think more than the murder and mayhem, the humor takes the spotlight in Chucky Season 3's highly anticipated return. From clever one-liners to exaggerated kills and the playful Dumbala specialists, along with Dourif exploring a new side of Chucky's character, overall this episode is a fun comeback. Despite all that, Mancini subtly moves the story forward because we all know that Chucky's not the kind to simply sit around and wallow in self-pity. All he needed was a push from Tiffany to channel his inner killer. It remains to be seen what unpredictable crap this doll pulls now that he has his hands on the nuclear launch codes. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comment box below. As always, if you like the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.